Hello everybody, let's talk about our topic today, linking ideas, how to form complex sentences. First of all, sentences with relative clauses. They give definitions, extra informations, and they are defining and non-defining relative clauses. First, defining relative clauses. They give necessary information. For example, the work which or that the animals have to do on the farm became harder and harder. Which and that are used for things, who and that are used for people. Another example, the beds the pigs sleep in don't have any sheets. Important, there's no comma between the main clause and the defining relative clause. Now we talk about the non-defining relative clause. They add extra information. For example, the tools on the farm were designed for men, which made work very difficult for the animals. It's not important to note that it made work very difficult for the animals. Another example, Pilkington and Frederick, with whom Napoleon had started trading, both want to buy a pile of timber. Important, there are commas between the main clause and the defining relative clause. We'll give you one more example. George Orwell, whose style is very clear and easy to understand, is very popular with young readers. Okay, good. Now we talk about the conditional sentences. The if clause tells you the condition, and the main clause tells you the consequence. There are three basic types. Type 1, the realistic condition. The if clause is in simple present, and the main clause is in will future. For example, if you park your car in the drive, our neighbor will complain. Type 2, the theoretical condition. The if clause is in simple past and the main clause is in conditional. For example, if I had lots of money, I'd go on a trip around the world. And type 3, the condition is no longer possible. The if clause is in past perfect and the main clause is in conditional perfect. For example, if you hadn't bought the car last year, you would have been able to afford the trip. Okay. We would like to tell you the difference between when and if. If is conditional. For example, I show you the photos if I see you on the weekend. It's not sure if they see each other on the weekend. When, it's temporal. I show you the photos when I see you on the weekend. Good. The next theme is tenses. Combinations in conditional sentences. If the if part on a sentence is in simple past, the other part of the sentence is in simple present, modal auxiliary, or imperative. For example, if it rains hard, you get wet without an umbrella. Here's used the simple present. The next example. If you really want to go on the world trip, you must try to save some money. Here's used the modal auxiliary. Example number 3. If you really want to go on the world trip, start to give up some of your expensive habits. Here's used the imperative. If the if part of the sentence is in past perfect, the other part of the sentence is in conditional. Example, if you had accepted the job my parents offered you, you'd been earning lots of money now. Attention. Attention. Don't use the will future, the conditional, or the conditional perfect in if clauses. And remember to put a comma if the if clause is the first part of the sentence. If the if clause is the second part of the sentence, you don't need a comma. Now we talk about sentences with adverbial clauses. Adverbial clauses of time, reasons, conditional, etc. They all add extra information to what is said in the main clause. Typical conjunctions can be used with different adverbial clauses. Adverbial clauses of time. When, as, after, while, as soon as, before, until, since. Before the American Revolution broke out, there were few links between the 13 colonies. Adverbial clauses of reason. As, since, because. For example, neighboring colonies were often hostile to each other because they quarreled over territory, trade. Adverbial clauses of consecution or contrast. Although, though, even, though, while, various. Although the population of the 13 colonies was only 2.5 million in 1775, the population was increasing fast. Or, Britain wanted the colonies to pay higher taxes, whereas the 13 colonies want to representation in Parliament. Adverbial clauses of condition. If, even if, unless. The American rebels might have lost the War of Independence if the French had not helped them. Adverbial clauses of purpose and result. So, that, such, so, that, and so on. At the end of the war, the Americans drafted a democratic construction so that their nearly won liberties would be protected. Linking sentences, parts with gerunds and participles. First, we talk about something about gerund constructions. The gerunds can be used instead of subordinate clauses. Then the gerund is after, before, on, for, after, and in spite of. For example, before deciding to move to America, many immigrants had suffered the hardship and persecution in their home countries. The gerund constructions can be used instead of subordinate clauses. Then it's before deciding, on arriving, and so on. One example, on arriving in the promised land, they immediately looked for jobs. If the gerunds are after certain phrases, they stand after instead of, by, without, apart from, as well as, what about, it's worth, and it's no use. Or example, some of the newcomers hoped to get rich by finding gold. Others thought it was no use digging for gold where there was none. The ing form with a subject of its own. The noun or pronoun is between the verb and the ing form. It gives the ing form a subject of its own. The example we took is, the white settler didn't like his little son playing with the Indian children. He objected to them to coming to their house. The last theme we want to talk about today is participle constructions. Participle constructions can be used instead of adverbial clauses. For example, hoping to find a piece of land of their own, lots of the arrivals had to move farther and farther west. Or warned about hostile Indians, the settlers tried to reach the nearest fort. Participle constructions introduced by a conjunction like after, as, since, while, when, thought, and so on. The settlers were able to find some rest and were able to repair their wagons while they're staying in those forts. You can also use perfect forms in the participle. Having lost some of their horses in the desert, the settlers were in a terrible situation. Participle constructions can be used to shorten relative clauses. The example we choose are, among the people moving west, there were adventurers looking for gold, rangers, and railroad workers. And the circle formed of 20 or more wagons offered the settlers some protection at night. If the participle constructions is used for actions, events that are happening at the same time, it's used to express accompanying circumstances. Sometimes the Indians attacked and rode round the circle of wagons, waving their tomahawks and uttering their shrill cries. The participle with a subject of its own sounds very formal. If it's introduced by with, it sounds less formal. Two examples. The townie on the east coast becoming more and more crowded. People began to look for land for the west. This sounds more formal than our next example. With so many people moving into Indian Territory, life for Native Americans changed dramatically. So, thanks for watching our video. We hope you've learned something.